Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another video today. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 picks in the first round that could have been redos. And starting out with it, let's talk about the number 4th overall pick by the Oakland Raiders, Clelin Ferrell, who's out of Clemson. A very solid pick, but not one that many people saw coming. Many people thought Josh Allen out of Kentucky would go to the Jets, and then the Raiders would pick Quentin Williams. That did not happen. The Jets chose defensive tackle out of Alabama, Quentin Williams, and that really affected the whole draft from there on, making Josh Allen drop to the Jaguars at number 7, which was a very weird pick considering that everyone thought that Jaguars would take Jawan Taylor, which actually happened in the second round at, I believe, number 35 in the pick, which was quite a good move by the Jaguars. But getting off topic, the pick, Clelin Ferrell, number 4, was really surprising because people really thought they'd take a pass rusher such as like Montez Sweat, Rashawn Gary, or Josh Allen. And having all those guys on the board at number 4 really made it seem like they'd take a guy like Josh Allen or just trade back and get more picks out of it and then pick up a guy like Montez Sweat or Rashawn Gary, which went at number 10, and that would have made more sense. Instead, they took Clelin Ferrell, a very solid guy, very physical guy, out of Clemson, number 99. He's played about, believe 3 seasons. He's 6'4", 265 pounds, and he's pretty good. He's a rookie now for this team. They got quite a bit of picks in the first round, taking Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Abram, which is good moves by this team because they also picked up a corner out of Clemson in the second round. I cannot remember his name currently. There's so many corners that came off the board in the second round, such as Rockison, Greedy Williams, and Byron Murphy, and then but this one was a little more shocking, and not many people really saw it coming. Okay, so the next guy we're going to be talking about is LJ Collier. I believe that's how you say it. He was drafted with, I believe, the number 29th overall pick in the 2019 draft by the Seattle Seahawks. Out of TCU, it was a more surprising pick since there is quite a bunch. They needed more of a pass rusher than anything else, and they could have got a guy in the second round that was just about as good as him. He's more of a run stopper, I would say, not a pass rusher. Considering they dealt Frank Clark to the Kansas City Chiefs for a first round and a 2020 second round pick, and swapped third round picks this year. It was more of like a different type of pick. No one really saw it coming. I kind of liked it, but they could have got a guy like Bangu. I don't know how to say his name. It's a weird last name out of TCU. It's a linebacker out of the same college that LJ Collier went to. He's a outside linebacker, so you could move him to D end. I could see that working, but they didn't pick him. I don't know what the Seahawks really want to do with him, or if they have a guy that they think can really step in and be a dominant pass rusher, such as Frank Clark was for the Seattle Seahawks last year. But now that he's gone, I don't really know what's going to happen. They could get a guy like a Ziggy Yanza in free agency. He's still out there and getting dealt with. He hasn't really went anywhere yet. There wasn't really that many good picks outside of him, LJ Collier. That happened like in the second round. There's like only like 1 or 2 pass rushers, and they were basically in the second round just about. So when that pick happened, it was a little shocking. They traded back twice in the first round, and then they ended up with him. It wasn't a bad pick. It was just a different pick than most people really thought would happen. Considering that they lost a pass rusher and one of their biggest needs is pass rusher. They could have also traded up and got a guy like Montez Sweat, but that didn't happen because he was actually 3 picks ahead of them, and they had the 20, 21st pick, I believed, and they traded back into 29th or 30th, and then they traded that pick again to the Giants, the 30th, and the Giants took DeAndre Baker. Um, Now moving on to our third guy that probably could have got a different redo is Titus Howard. Fun fact about Titus Howard: he was a quarterback who gained 87 pounds in I don't know how long it was. Just pretty quick, like in 2 years or something like that, just to transition to offensive tackle. And it worked out pretty good for him, but not many people really understand this pick considering all the talent that was still on the board for the Texans, considering Jawan Taylor, Cody Ford, and a bunch of other guys were on the board at pass protectors. It didn't make that much sense. There were so many people, and they could have even got a top-notch corner out of this draft because there's no corners taken off the board at that point. And they could have actually waited until the last round or traded back, actually, got another second rounder, maybe a first rounder out of that. Traded up, got another pick in the second round. They had 2 picks in the second round. They picked another offensive lineman and a corner, but their picks were okay. I didn't really know what the Texans would do coming into this draft, considering all the needs they had, losing Tyrann Mathieu last year to free agency. He went to the Kansas City Chiefs on a 3-year, $42 million contract. But, it is what it is. They could have got a guy like Jonathan Abram, Rockerson, Greedy Williams, Byron Murphy. Oh, you hear me saying a lot of guys over and over again, but those guys were available, and they were really great corners and defensive backs, and there were so many good pass protectors and run power runners for offensive linemen that could help you run down the field. There's also George Little out of Ole Miss. I forgot. Cody Ford out of Oklahoma. I didn't forget him. I just forgot which college he went to. The Broncos even got a offensive lineman at 41 overall. He's actually pretty good. There was a lot of centers that went off the board. One went to the Saints, which made sense considering Max Unger retired this year. He was basically a veteran center who played very well. There's also a center that went off the board to the Packers, who's probably going to transition to guard, which makes most sense because he can play just about any position on the offensive line. And yeah, now the number 2 guy I want to get into that didn't make that much sense is actually a very dominant, very physical, very good. He could have won in the top 5, but who doesn't make really that much sense, and you're gonna probably guess who it is. Yeah, it's gonna be Jeffrey Simmons out of Mississippi State, and a lot of people took Jeffrey Simmons off their board just because with the NFL going on, all these very domestic violence and such stuff with players like Kareem Hunt. Big case going on with Tyreek Hill right now and his son's broken arm, saying there came out not footage, but video recording of his wife, his fiance, taping it at the time, and it was saying that his daddy, when she's talking, and he said, "You should be scared of me." But besides that fact, it didn't make much sense taking Jeffrey Simmons, considering he could get suspended, even though he did his actions at 18 when he separated his sister and a grown woman fighting in public, and then he pushed the grown woman to the ground and punched her a ridiculous amount of times in the face, making her stumble to the ground back when she got up, and her mom and sister just beating her up. It was a very bad situation. It could have been an overreaction by Jeffrey Simmons. At the end of the day, he knows what he did, and there's no coming back from that. It's just kind of focus on moving forward. It didn't make that much sense. It made sense. You see your family member getting hurt, but it is what it is. Like what I said, it was just a harder thing probably to deal with. That's why about I think 11 teams took him off their draft board from what it says during like the news about it and stuff. It's a good pick. Like I could have seen him going like in the third round. Like I don't really see how many teams would take him, considering the amount of needs. It does fit one of the needs for the Titans, but it was a little bit much considering they were hosting the NFL draft this year, and them taking a guy like Jeffrey Simmons out of Mississippi State. It's a good pick. It's just didn't make that much sense considering he's got, if anyone in this draft, he's got more talent than a lot of guys coming into this draft. He's a very dominant lineman for on the defensive side. It was just didn't make that much sense, and they could have gotten him probably in the third round because I don't really know how many teams would have taken him. A lot said they took him off their board, and that's 11 teams. That's about a third of the teams. No, it's about actually a half. No, it is a third because it's yeah. I'm sorry, I got 22 in my head. Yeah, because that's about a third, and there's a lot of teams that really didn't need a dominant defensive tackle. They could have, like the Seahawks, they needed a defensive end. A lot of teams needed DNs and offensive linemen and wide receivers, but they took Jeffrey Simmons. They could have got a guy like Marquise Brown instead of AJ Brown, from who Marquise Brown went to the Ravens, and it made a lot of sense because Hollywood Brown is a pretty good player. He's related, actually, I believe, to Antonio Brown, or that's AJ Brown. There's a lot of like very like similar names in this draft, considering Josh Allen and Josh Allen went like Josh Allen, the quarterback went last year, and then Josh Allen, defensive the defensive player went this year, and then there's Josh Rosen who had a lot of stuff going into this draft because he's already been drafted, but the Cardinals drafted Kyler Murray and traded Josh Rosen to the Miami Dolphins for a second and fifth round pick, which was stipulated. I think the Cardinals could have got a lot more out of Josh Rosen if they would have traded him before the draft, shaking up a lot of stuff because what they originally wanted was a first round pick for him. No one was going to do that. I'm surprised they even got a second rounder for him because you look at a guy like Antonio Brown who got traded by the Pittsburgh Steelers for a third and fifth round pick. That's not that good of a trade for the best wide receiver in the NFL, but there was a lot of issues, controversial issues on the sideline and that franchise, that organization for the Steelers with him because he was a very big mouth. He went on Instagram, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, and kind of like talked bad about players like Juju and stuff, and it is what it is. I can see why they didn't. I'm surprised they really got that pick. So the Cardinals they got Byron Murphy and Kyler Murray. That's pretty good. And great for their first two picks. That's really good. Okay, and now we're gonna get to the one that I would personally have not taken, Daniel Jones with the number 6 overall pick by the New York Giants. I don't want to really rip on this guy too much because I've watched ESPN, I've watched the NFL live, I've seen like all the people at the drafts talking bad about him, and he is like a number 4 quarterback coming into this draft. Like Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, and then Daniel Jones, and then they took him at 6 when there was only one quarterback after board, Kyler Murray at number 1, which everyone knew was gonna happen. But for them to like pass up on a guy like Dwayne Haskins, who really, really, really good. He played magnificent last year with 50 touchdowns and 8 interceptions and 14 starts. That's insanely good. He had 70% accuracy, like, of getting the ball to the target and that person not dropping it. It makes sense because they had a lot of guys like, I believe, Debo Samuel and some others on that team. Maybe even, I can't remember like them all. There's so many wide receivers in the second round that went off, and corners. It's just really hard to keep track of it all. And yeah, so LG Collier, Clayton Farrell, Tyus Howard, Jeffrey Simmons. Yeah, never mind. But it didn't make a bunch of sense having him go because they could have got a guy like Dwayne Haskins, which everyone thought would the Redskins would have to trade up to get him. That didn't happen. It felt right to them, so it's really smart of the the what do you call them? My bad. I can't think of them. The Redskins to not to like really sniff out that smoke that the Giants were like laying and like say, hey, we want to take um Daniel Jones, and everyone thought it was just smoke, but they knew it wasn't smoke. And I don't know why I say smoke, but that's what everyone else says, so I'm just gonna say smoke. It didn't make that much sense taking him. Like the Broncos traded back, which made it obvious that they weren't going to get Dwayne Haskins. So it was like a really good job on the Redskins part getting Dwayne Haskins. I don't know why pick 6 was Daniel Jones, maybe because I don't. This sounds racist, but you kind of have to think this at this point. A guy like Daniel Jones going pick 6 and knowing the Eli Manning brothers, specifically Eli Manning, who's going to be playing this maybe his last year, his second to last year, and mentoring Daniel Jones, they knew each other. It kind of makes sense. Kind of like how Kyler Murray knew Cliff Kingsbury, and he got picked by that coach, basically. Everyone knew that Cliff Kingsbury was going to take Kyler Murray, but to take Daniel Jones over Drew Lock or Dwayne Haskins, you kind of have to think it's because like the New York Giants have had only one starting quarterback that was African American, and to pass up on a guy like Dwayne Haskins is you kind of have to think like a lot of teams have picked black quarterbacks in the past couple of years, and for a team like the New York Giants not to, even like in the late rounds with good quarterbacks that were African American, you kind of have to think like they could be a little bit of like a racist organization. Like think about it, they've had issues with a lot of African Americans on the team. Like you have to think like they traded away Odell Beckham Jr. He was African American. Like I'm not saying it's all their fault, but it could be. Like they signed a 5-year, $95 million deal, which is a little insane. That's like I think bigger than maybe a Trey Flowers deal, but it may not be. But it's still a little bit of a screwed up thing to think about, considering how much the NFL has went through with like Colin Kaepernick scandals and stuff, and like not that what Colin Kaepernick did was wrong, but it just brought out a really ugly side to the NFL and how like the Carolina Panthers could be owned by I can't remember his name, but he was an African American rapper. I think it's like it wasn't Lil Wayne or Lil Pump. I can't remember his name actually. It's been so long, but they sold it to a white guy. I think for like less. They've had like a really bad issue, so I could see the Daniel Jones pick really making a really like big deal in the NFL because Daniel Jones is like I said not that great of a quarterback compared to others, and his comparison to a guy like Dwayne Haskins is horrible. Like, just it's completely bad because and Dwayne Haskins having one season, 14 games like that he played with the team. Like other times he's injured or something, I can't remember. He may have just been sitting out that game. He threw 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and his passing percentage was and his passer rating was 70%, which is pretty good compared to Daniel Jones's passer rating, which is actually really low. So to have a guy like him go that way, to pick a guy like Daniel Jones over Dwayne Haskins, it's just really, really, really hard. I think if I was a coach to pick Daniel Jones over Dwayne Haskins, I think I would never even take Daniel Jones. I would obviously take Dwayne Haskins, who can run really well, who can get the ball down the field, pass it in places most quarterbacks can't, kind of like how Patrick Mahomes threw some of these great passes last year that no one really saw. He's kind of like, I always think of this, like, I feel like Dwayne Haskins really got, like, the end of the bar that, like, Deshaun Watson got because, like, you take a guy like Kyler Murray, 1 year Heisman Trophy winner, who's got his own little weird things going on. Like, he's 5'10". Like how like the Bears took Mitchell Trubisky, like 1 year, like 13 games, didn't have like an amazing season, but got picked second overall, first quarterback off the board. It didn't make that much sense. It came out to pay off for the Bears so far. I still think Deshaun Watson was better. If they took him, I think it would have worked out really nicely. But I guess Matt Nagy really liked Mitchell Trubisky, so before he even was his coach, so I guess it worked out. And then Patrick Mahomes, I still don't think he's better than Deshaun Watson. I think a lot of people think he's better, but like when you look at the offense, they legit paid everyone on the offense so much, and like their defense is really what made them lose going to the Super Bowl last year. If you really look at it, like they had Eric Berry play one of his last game against the Patriots, and they had Justin Houston, Chris Long, or I can't, no, not Chris Long, but like it may be, I don't know, I can't remember his name. And they had like Anthony Hitchens, and then like Nelson, like Steve Nelson, or I don't know, like Ron Parker. Like the team just had a really bad defense, and then they had like D Ford, obviously, but like all they had was a pass rush, and that didn't work out because they traded D Ford. They released Justin Houston and Eric Berry, and now they brought in Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu, and a bunch of other guys. But I still think Deshaun Watson's better because he doesn't have like guys like a really good offensive line. Like, look, they took Titus Howard like with their first pick, and then they took like with their like third pick, which was like the pick right after their second pick. They took another offensive lineman, and then like I think they took like another offensive lineman after that. Or it was just they took like 3 or 4 offensive linemen because their offensive line blows horribly bad. So it makes sense. But it is what it is. But getting back on topic, like even if you guys are racist, like why not just take Drew Lock, who's better? He's played with worse guys. Like he's played with worse guys than Dwayne Haskins, obviously, because Ohio State is a bigger college than Mizzou, and Dwayne Haskins had better wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, like offensive linemen, like he did. And why not even take a guy like Drew Lock, who had less and made more than out of stuff than a lot of others did. He didn't play great against like big schools, but he played better than Daniel Jones at Duke, and you kind of have to wonder, like, it's just, I don't know. I think Eli Manning, at the end of the day, really made this pick, not the organization. Like, because technically, like, the Giants organization is married to Eli Manning. So, yeah. So, if you guys enjoyed and liked the video, please subscribe, turn on notifications. You don't have to subscribe or turn on notifications, but I please ask you to subscribe. It gives me more encouragement to make videos like these. I'm going to try to get back, like, making these regularly, like, once a week, if I can. It just depends on time and like, what's going on. So, yeah, I haven't posted in a while. This is, like, one of my posts in, like, a month or something like that. It's been a while, maybe 3 weeks. You guys, please leave a like, leave a comment on what kind of videos you want to see. And they're not gaming videos. I'm done with gaming. It's stupid. I suck at gaming. Like, I'll have gameplay footage in the background that basically sucks most of the time. Besides, like, sometimes I'll have creative destruction gameplay and I'll get a win. It's kind of hard. This game, Standoff 2, I'll try to leave a link in the description. It's a really bad game. It's not bad. It's not that good. Like you can't really aim in on a player. You just have to like let the bloom get you a kill. So it's kind of stupid. This video went way longer than I thought it would. I think I got off topic a lot of times. That's why I'll try to do better. But I think you guys need to know that other information, like about corners, offensive linemen, and stuff like that. But yeah, so thank you for watching.